So I have a battle from a couple of days ago actually that I almost forgot I had in the wings. So I am definitely going to be showing you guys a battle. So I am back. Here I am. We are going to get into this. Um he's going to lead with a Galvantula, and I'm leading with Fortress. I figure the best thing for me to do is really try and put pressure on him by getting my stealth rocks up and hopefully some other entry hazards. Doesn't really work out quite as planned. I think I get stealth rocks and a layer of spikes up, but he brings in his fortress. Obviously, with the intent to rapid spin. I wasn't sure if he was going to go for the rapid spin or setting up his own stealth rocks first. So, as an in before rocks kind of deal, I want to bring in Talonflame really just to hit something, you know, decently hard. Then I think about it and I look at his team. I really don't think there's anything on his team that I can OHKO with a Flare Blitz. I mean, looking at that damage on Sableye, I probably actually could have. Probably would have made sense just to fire off some Flare Blitzes or Brave Birds and punch a hole through his team. But I decided to U-turn out into my Manectric, mostly to get some Volt turning action going on, which is exactly what I do. I break through his substitute fairly effortlessly, and then I go into my Furfrous. The reason I go into my Furfrous over my Talonflame again is because I really don't want Talonflame dealing too much damage to itself with its Life Orb. So that's why I decide to go out into Furfrous. He taunts me, so I can't roar. So I just hard switch into Manectric, Volt switch back out, go into Aegislash, because at this point, I know that he does carry the priority Will-O-Wisp, but for whatever reason, I thought that I would be safe. There was just something in my gut that was telling me to bring this thing in and Shadow Sneak, so that's exactly what I do, and it pays off because I take the foul play relatively well in shield form, and then I deal with the Sableye with Shadow Sneak. He goes into his fortress, obviously, because I carry the Iron Head and Shadow Sneak. I can't do anything with my Aegislash. So this is where I bring in Goodra. The thing I decide to go for is Fire Blast, because nothing on his gun on his team will appreciate a Choice Specs Fire Blast, even if it's unstabbed. But as he brings in Clefable, which is a fairy type now, obviously I don't really have much of a choice but to switch out, because definitely fearing like Moonblast or something like that. He predicts that nicely, goes for a Calm Mind, and is able to Fire Blast to take out my Fortress. When Fortress goes down, I go into my Talonflame. I was hoping he would kind of, get greedy and go for a second Calm Mind so I could get the Rapid Spin off, but it doesn't play out. So I lose my Talonflame to take out his Fortress, which is not bad. And then here I was really thinking I could live a Bug Buzz. Nope. Not at all. So his Galvantula is going to take out my Mega Manectric, which could have gone better. But Goodra, again, I was in a similar situation where if he brought in Clefable, Draco Meteor would not do anything. So Fire Blast really was the better play to make there. He goes into Kangaskhan. I know the Fake Out is coming, so that's why I go into Aegislash. Mostly to scout for his Mega, and if he carries the Scrappy. When he Mega Evolves, it gets rid of Scrappy, so I'm not super worried about anything after that point. So I know I can safely King Shield just to get Kangaskhan's attack down. And as he switches out, because Kangaskhan at that point wouldn't be able to do anything to my Aegislash, I get a Swords Dance up, which is really nice. Here he makes a pretty decent series of plays. He goes for the Fake Out when I King Shield. What I should have done here was Swords Dance again, just to get myself up to +4, because I knew there was no question in my mind I could take a unstab Shadow Claw, even with Mega Kangaskhan. But I decided to King Shield again. Maybe I would get lucky. And since King Shield failed and I really wanted to get that attack drop, I King Shield a third time. So I kind of waste a turn there. but he doesn't really gain anything from it. Um, if I had just Iron Headed, that would have been the game right there. But because I know I can't take another hit on my Aegislash, can't really risk the Shadow Claw at that point. I'm going to switch out into my Furfrous. He goes for the return, most likely expecting it. Um, and then I'm going to go for the Sucker Punch, hoping that I could just take out Kangaskhan. Khan. He actually goes out into his Hawlucha, which isn't a bad play because it does get rid of the attack drop. But I carry the Baby Doll Eyes. And against Hawlucha, I'm not really that worried because I do have the Fur Coat, I do have the Baby Doll Eyes. So I Toxic this thing, and I decide that I can just stall it to hell. His high jump kick does miss, which is really, really nice because that's, 50% of his health gone. And see, Furfrous takes that high jump kick really, really well. So I'm not really that mad. This actually works out extremely, extremely well because I get dragged out into my Gudra. When his Hawlucha dies, the only problem with this is I actually realize that my Gudra is not going to live, even if, especially if he decides to fake out. So what I do here is just let my Gudra die, so I can go into Aegislash. Again, he decides to go for the fake out, which I'm immune to, just to bypass King Shield. At this point, I'm like, I can probably get the attack drops I need with Furfrous. Not only that, I know the Shadow Claw is coming. So he does exactly as I would expect him to. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? This is his only guy left. I can probably just take it out with a Sucker Punch, it was a little bit risky. Um, I'm not sure how much that crit did matter. In retrospect, it would have been safer to go for Baby Doll Eyes because at that point, Aegislash would have been able to better handle it. But it still works out in my favor, and Furfrous and Aegislash really doing a lot of work. So I can't complain too much. So that is my first Generation 6 Pokemon Showdown narrated battle. A 36 turn, very fun game. It kind of did come down to the wire, but I walked away victorious. Hopefully, I will be able to record more battles, post narration, and live to put up on a more regular basis. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Hey guys, what's up? I am TheMadUzuki, and I have a Pokemon battle here for you. It is Generation 6, and it's on Pokemon Showdown against a person who happens to be the person I am battling against in this battle, because it's a Pokemon battle. Anyway, this is the variation of the team that I had at the time, running Furfrous, Manectric, Fortress, Aegislash, Gudra, and Talonflame. As of right now, I have switched out Manectric for a Rotom Wash. I decided for the moment I'm not actually going to be running any Mega Evolutions whatsoever. I don't really think they're necessary. You don't really need a Mega Evolution to win in this generation. People will use them anyway, but they're only okay. Anyway, that's at least how I see it. So we will get right into the action. I am going to lead with Fortress. He is going to lead with Lucario. I didn't expect him to start setting up or anything right away. I expected at worst maybe an Earthquake or a Close Combat, which I knew I could take. I'm going to set up Stealth Rocks. Turns out he goes for Aura Sphere, which makes me think this is either a mixed or special set. Either way, I would have lived it and been able to get out my Stealth Rocks, which to me was important really to cripple Salamence, and he doesn't have a Rapid Spinner. Anyway, I am just going to switch right out into my Aegislash, knowing he's probably going to want to stay in, just try and take out my Fortress, which I can save for Death Fodder later. He's going to switch into his Greninja after that, and I'm going to get a free Swords Dance. I really play poorly right here with my Aegis Slash. I figure that I can take a Dark Pulse or a Hydro Pump, whatever he wants to throw at me, and then get a second Swords Dance up, so I can then Shadow Sneak and be pretty much set up to sweep. It slipped my mind, despite the fact that I've seen this a lot, it slipped my mind that Greninja gets Protean. So I forgot that he was going to be the Dark type when when he used Dark Pulse. I'm going to go into my Manectric here, just because it's really the best thing I can do. After that, attack drop, which doesn't matter, I'm going to be able to outspeed, or no, I don't outspeed, but I do take the Scald, and then I can Volt Switch and take him out. I was trying out Mega Manectric just to see if I liked it or not. It's alright. It is in no way the epitome of Megas, but I do get to take out his Greninja. I switch into my Talonflame simply because I have no Stealth Rocks up, and Talonflame has U-Turn, which allows me to get a nice chunk of damage off on Tyranitar and then switch out into my Forretress. Now, I didn't expect Tyranitar to carry Fire Blast, even though they normally do just to counter Forretress, because I haven't seen it in Gen 6 a whole lot recently, despite the fact that Forretress is still running about. But the fact that he missed works out extremely well for me, because that means I do get to Rapid Spin, and I decided to just keep Rapid Spinning in case he wants to decide to go for the Stealth Rocks again. It means that basically he wouldn't be able to get him out. He decides to just straight take me out, which actually works out better for me in the long run, because I will now be able to bring in my Goodra, either scare him out or flat take him out, without having to worry about Stealth Rock at all. He goes right into his Blissey, which I do predict to happen, so that's part of the reason why I went with Focus Blast. Alternately, if he decided to stay in, it would have KO'd his Tyranitar easily either way. And I did not expect Salamence to come in just because of the potential Draco Meteor, so Focus Blast would have hit everything else anyway. Just because I really have nothing else to do against Blissey, I go into my Furfrous at this juncture. I wanted to scout for the Thunder Wave. Sometimes they carry Thunder Wave, sometimes they carry Toxic. Furfrous was just the thing that I didn't mind being statused at all. So that's why I went to Furfrous. At least I know that he carries the Thunder Wave and Thunderbolt, which is good information to have in the back of my pocket. Roaring Salamence actually works out really well for me, because this is a defensive... I can speak, I swear. It's a physically defensive Furfrous, which carries Baby Doll Eyes, which is a new Fairy-type move that gets a priority attack drop, which is very, very nice. So, knowing I can take Unstab Fire Blasts from Salamence all day, because this is a specially defensive Furfrous, I go ahead, hit it with a couple of Baby Doll Eyes, and let him do his thing. We both decide to switch out at the same time. Interestingly enough, it works out perfectly, because I switch into my Talonflame as he goes into Lucario, which is a absolute counter. So he is immediately scared out. I decided to go for the Brave Bird in case he decides to, get greedy. Maybe try and start setting up, because I'm still not sure what kind of set that Lucario is running. It actually works out still for me, because Tyranitar takes the Brave Bird, but ends up within range of me being able to take him out with a U-turn, meaning my Talonflame will not have to worry about Stealth Rocks, which is really, really good news, because now I have in the back of my mind Talonflame is able to deal with Scizor quite handily. That is basically my plan to deal with Scizor at this point, and play accordingly until I have to deal with Scizor, knowing that it is his Mega Evolution at this point. I go out into Manectric kind of as a pivot switch. He goes into Blissey. I'm able to Volt Switch out, Obviously, it doesn't really do that much into my Furfrous. I want to get the Toxic on this thing just to get some damage going. Even though he just revealed Aromatherapy, I really would like Blissey out of the way so Manectric and Goodra can kind of do their thing. It's interesting to me that he switches out. I guess he doesn't want to just keep on sitting in and taking the sand damage. But I Sucker Punch here just for posterity, really. Um, I guess I could have roared, but at that point it wasn't that big of a deal. As he goes into his Lucario, I decide I'm going to sacrifice my Manectric because that's really the best decision I can make. And Manectric's going to die to an Aura Sphere, which is exactly what I, you know, was hoping. That way I can bring in my Goodra perfectly safe. And because of my massive amount of special defense, I know I can take an Aura Sphere. And I take it really, really well. Um, then I fire back a Fire Blast because nothing on his team is going to appreciate it. Salamence has to switch into Stealth Rocks, and Blissey won't want to take a Choice Spect Fire Blast from a Goodra at all. At that point, the switch into a Fire Blast definitely would have killed it. And obviously, it most likely would have OHKO'd Scissor. So, I probably theoretically could have stayed in and Fire Blasted all day. My biggest issue was if this was a Moxie I didn't want to be taken out and put into a not so great position. And as I mentioned earlier, I know I need Talonflame to take out Scizor. Or I don't need it, but that would be the easiest way to deal with it. So what I decided to do is go into Furfrous because I know I can take a Dragon Claw. I know I can take an Earthquake. He most likely won't be going for Fire Blast. So that way I can get the attack drop to offset Moxie if he is a Moxie which it happens he is. Bring in Talonflame and Brave Bird. Now, if he had managed to get Stealth Rocks up and keep them up, I would be taking on his Scissor with Goodra, which is not necessarily something I was entirely comfortable with, but because he doesn't have Stealth Rocks up, my Talonflame is able to take out Salamence and live, which means I can roost and kind of scout what he wants to do. And because I know I won't take anything from a Bullet Punch. So I just roost back up to full health, take a couple of Bullet Punches. I'm not even phased. And at this point, I know for a fact, even if my Talonflame dies, I can take this thing out with a Flare Blitz and win the game. And Talonflame gets to still live with a smidgen. So I win 2-0. Very fun game. I definitely misplayed my Aegislash. That game probably could have been a little bit shorter than it was. But I definitely outplayed my opponent, which is obviously why I won. I think the biggest fluke in that entire game was that Fire Blast miss with T-Tar on Fortress, but it wasn't pivotal because my Goodra, I'm fairly confident, would have been able to deal with Mega Scizor. Bullet Punch, Bug Bite, whatever he would have wanted to do, definitely would have been able to kill me. So I would have been able to fire back with a Fire Blast and win the game. So that is the game, and I will hopefully be uploading more regularly once more now that Gen 6 is really up and running on Pokemon Showdown, and I have a good team that I enjoy using. I will talk to you all later.